My name is Matt Williams. I'm from a small town in southern Illinois. I grew up, it had about a couple thousand people in it. My high school graduating class had maybe 60 people in it. And it was become my dream to go to college in a bigger city, and I loved St. Louis. And I fell in love with St. Louis after I was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer at the age of 9. And so they found a golf ball-sized tumor in my brain after I had been having headaches. And so we go into the doctor for a well-doctor's visit. We say, "Doctor, I'm having these headaches. What's happening?" He goes, "Oh, maybe it's a maybe it's a sinus infection. Maybe it's migraines." 2 hours later, I was headed to St. Louis Children's Hospital as a stage 3 cancer patient. And so from there, I obviously lost my hair due to the radiation therapy and the surgery. I had a 10-hour surgery that completely removed the golf ball-sized tumor. So when I was in the hospital, I was in the hospital, actually living in the hospital for a week, and I would wake up to somebody pricking my finger and someone taking my blood, and I would meet with probably upwards of 10 doctors in that day, and nurses and people coming in and out and just talking to me about what was happening and what was going on. And it moved very quickly from doing MRI scans and the prep work for surgery to post-surgery, which was in an intensive care unit where I was monitored extremely heavily. So that week was really a blur. And as far as the 3 months of radiation therapy, it mostly entailed waking up, going to radiation therapy pretty early in the morning, getting that over with, and then having honestly the rest of the day to kind of enjoy St. Louis. And also I was being homeschooled at the time by my mom. I grew up in public school, but my mom was a school teacher, so that during that time she took off from work and homeschooled me through that process. We spent about 3 or 4 hours doing homeschool work and trying to be a little kid. Yeah, that's one thing that I think my mom was a huge blessing at, was that she refused to kind of let childhood cancer be the defining moment at the time in my childhood. Her idea, I think, was Matt still loved baseball. Matt still loved his favorite movies. Matt still loved going outside and playing. Just because Matt had a bald head doesn't mean really anything changed. And she was pretty adamant on, one, making me happy through a really hard time, which in the moment was a huge blessing that there's someone there, and a lot of people in my family, my entire family, not just my mom, was there to encourage me and make me happy, but also just accept me that I'm normal, and that I wasn't gonna be bald the rest of my life, and I wasn't gonna be the cancer kid the rest of my life. So I was in public school from pre-K till senior of high school, besides those 3 months that my mom homeschooled me while I was undergoing the therapy. And after I had the cancer, I was really big into activism and nonprofits and things like that. And at my school, we had something called the National Beta Club, which was a National Honor Society that, based on grades and based on participation in the classroom, you can be in. And so I really took off in that and really enjoyed service projects and things like that. And I took a lot of time in things like we had Youth for Christ, and we had some different organizations at our school that I enjoyed, but it was mostly the service and the nonprofit things which is essentially why Matt's Hats exists today. It's just that desire. People help me, and I want to help other folks too. As I lost my hair due to the therapy, people donated hats to me to hide my baldness. It's not every day you see a little kid walking around St. Louis without hair. You get looks, you get comments, and maybe it's even with good intentions, but it still brings attention to it. And so what people would do, instead of comment, they would give a hat, and the hat would not only protect my head from the sun, but it would make me feel like the 9-year-old kid I was supposed to be. And so after that, I had about 200 hats piling up in corners in my room after I got back from the hospital. And my hair grew back, and I'm like, what am I going to do with these hats? And so one day, I just decided to sell the hats for $5 at my upcoming local festival, Fall Fest, and donate the money to childhood cancer research to my former doctor at Washington University. And the hats we didn't sell, we just take to the hospital and we'll give to kids who also lost their hair due to therapy. And so through that just initial start began a project that I deemed Matt's Hats. And then after that, we decided to call it a nonprofit and organize and become an official 501c3 legalized non-for-profit entity. And so we continued kind of that model of selling hats and donating hats and selling hats and donating hats up until the point I moved to college. And so when I decided to go to college and move away 3 hours from my small town, I debated quitting Matt's Hats and ending it and letting it be the just the project I had in high school and later middle school. But it kind of caught on here, and the story kind of started being told, and people started taking interest, and so it kind of became evident that Matt's Hats still had a place in my life, and that this is something that this is the place God has given me to work in. And so I began kind of exploring what relaunching Matt's Hats here in St. Louis could look like, what that would feel like, and what that would entail with my new college career. And so I started getting some people together, and we started meeting and kind of talking about, hey, this is something I've done in the past. Is this something we want to do in the future? And on July 14th, we released a video called The Opportunity. And essentially, that video was our moment to relaunch here in St. Louis. And it basically told my story of having cancer, starting a nonprofit and doing something and giving and using the story of childhood cancer and really in a broad general respect, any story that could be defined as a tragedy and making it into an opportunity. And so the video kind of went mini viral, and it hit over 20,000 views. And so after that, we've been running ever since here in St. Louis. And so we've been growing a board of directors, and we've been coordinating fundraisers, and we just landed a pretty major donor who will really be making us known in 2017. So one of the most important things and more special things that we did, my mom and I, was we made a scrapbook of what we were doing while we were having radiation, and we called it kind of a radiation vacation and made this cool little thing out of it. And we just kind of organized everything we did and the important things of radiation vacation in that time for us, and just having that to look back on, having that to go back and say, hey, he had a golf ball sized tumor, and it just got taken out, but he's playing with birds at the zoo, he's painting, he's enjoying a walk, he's enjoying a meal. And just going back and be able to see that extreme love that was poured out on me from my mom and from the people around me in St. Louis is really special, and it will always be one of the more important pieces in my life. Baseball has always kind of just been a hobby of mine and a love of mine. When I was in St. Louis, the St. Louis Science Center had an exhibit, I believe called Sportsworks or Bodyworks or something like that. And because I was seemingly homeschooled at the time, I could just go in there whenever, and I would always play on the pitching machines. And I'm an avid Chicago Cubs fan, so here in St. Louis, I went to, I did go to a lot of baseball games and Cardinals games that people knew me to, and then we went to Wrigley Field after that. One thing I always found it interesting is people would, and they mean well, but they would say, find the silver lining in having cancer, or what's the little golden piece about having cancer? And there really is no golden piece to having cancer. Cancer is a product of sin in the world, and cancer is set out to kill me, take my life. The golden nugget or silver lining is the fact that Jesus Christ died for our sins, took something and gave us an everlasting hope, and has turned into something slightly positive and good. And that just happens to look like a nonprofit that's built off the story of something really terrible. And that can be applied to any tragedy in someone's life. And any time someone has ever cried or felt depressed or felt like their life has been destroyed, there is not necessarily a silver lining in the moment, but there's a lot of silver linings in the moments after. And that's really where the work begins, is after the fact. And that's the encouragement and hope for anyone going through that. Sometimes I say I'm really glad I got to face death at such a young age. It puts a lot of things in perspective. It kind of does things to you that you don't even necessarily realize until you look back in life. And you realize that there's things that just don't matter in life, and there's things that really do matter. And there's people, and there's experiences, and there's emotions and things like that that are very important. And you also realize that a faith in Jesus Christ is simply, not so simply, but it isn't just feeling good. It isn't just going to church, and it's not just you know, living a life a certain way so that you can best help others or even best serve God. A faith in Jesus Christ is having hope, period, and having joy, period, only because of somebody else and because outside of your current circumstances.